She was up and talking. They told you she was fine. The nursing home called in the morning after a fall and said, you don't need to worry. She's up, she's talking, everything's fine. So you didn't rush over. Why would you? They told you she was fine. You visited the next afternoon and she was confused. She was lethargic. She was slurring her words. And they still hadn't sent her to a hospital. It was only when you visited that you demanded an ambulance. And then the next thing you know, a doctor was using the words brain bleed, subdural hematoma, and asking you, how long has she been like this? And all you could think of is, well, they told me she was fine. So here's the question that haunts every family that this happens to. How does someone go from being up and talking to a devastating brain injury the next day? And why did nobody at the nursing home see the signs of a problem long before you did? My name is David Terry, and I've spent 25 years handling nursing home abuse and neglect cases. And I'm telling you right now, the phrase, she was up and talking and is fine, is one of the most dangerous sentences a nursing home can say, because this particular injury may not show itself right away. So a nursing home needs to act not just on what is happening right now, but they need to know the dangers and act on those. Not doing so can be catastrophic. In this video, I'm going to explain what's actually happening inside the skull during a fall, and then why the danger of a brain bleed can hide in a delay. And I want to tell you about the one record that tells you whether the nursing home actually watched her or just wrote down, she's fine. So let's talk about what a brain bleed or a subdural hematoma actually is. So your brain sits inside of your skull, and between the brain and the skull, there are some small blood vessels. And when the head takes a hit, even a seemingly minor one of those vessels can tear and start to bleed. And that bleeding is called a subdural hematoma. And here's what makes a subdural hematoma so dangerous. So that skull is a closed box. There's no room for extra blood. So as that bleed slowly builds, it starts pressing on the brain. And depending upon how fast it bleeds, that pressure can take hours or sometimes even days to cause symptoms. This is exactly why this resident seemed fine at first. There's a window of time where the person may look and act completely normal after a fall, but all the while, the brain is slowly bleeding. They can walk, they can talk, they can answer questions and seem entirely like themselves. And then the pressure reaches a tipping point and they go downhill fast. That window is why a fall that looked like nothing on Monday becomes an emergency on Tuesday or Wednesday. So let's discuss who in a nursing home population is at the highest risk of subdural hematomas. And the answer to that is anyone on a blood thinner. And that is a large percentage of nursing home residents, right? Residents are often on blood thinners for the heart, for clot prevention, for atrial fibrillation, and other things. And when you're on a blood thinner, your blood actually loses the ability to clot. That's the purpose of them. So when we cut our finger, we might bleed for a bit and then the bleeding stops because our blood naturally clots. But if we're on a blood thinner, our blood loses that ability to clot. And so for a nursing home resident on a blood thinner, that bleeding on the brain, it doesn't clot. It doesn't stop. It just keeps bleeding. Now look, the staff knows, or at least should know, exactly who is on these medications. And that changes everything about how they should respond when a resident suffers a head injury. All head injuries in nursing home residents should be taken seriously. But when a resident on blood thinners falls and bangs her head on the floor, that is a potentially deadly event, even if they seem fine immediately after the fall. So what should a nursing home do in this situation? At a minimum, they need to immediately call the resident's physician and family member and get instructions on whether the resident should be sent to a hospital for further evaluation. That is the bare minimum. So when I have a case come in like this, the first thing that I ask for in every single one of these cases is I get the records and I look for the care plan and whether the facility followed the care plan requirement. Then I look to see what they did for the resident after the fall. Did they document anything? Did they record her mental status? Did they do neuro checks? Did they check her again a few hours later, say like the next shift or the next morning or the next day? Did anyone note that she was on a blood thinner and act on that information? Did they call her doctor? Did they call her family? Now, here's what I find in case after case. A fall report that says something like, the resident's found on the floor, returned to bed, appears fine. And then nothing. No neuro checks, no follow-up, no one watching for the very thing that was already happening. That blank space in that chart between the fall and those hours where they're doing nothing, that's where your legal case is sometimes. Because she was not fine. She was unmonitored. She was not provided with proper care and supervision. And sadly, far too often, that delay results in the resident's death because they're not paying attention to her care needs. Now, after any fall or head bump, these warning signs can appear anywhere from immediately to a day or two later. The resident may complain about a headache that just keeps getting worse instead of better. She may demonstrate more confusion than normal. She may be getting sleepy at the wrong times or become hard to wake up. And there may be vomiting or slurred speech. Any one of those in the hours or days after a fall is an immediate reason to get her to an emergency room. So why do so many nursing homes mess this up? So the sad truth is because they're often short-staffed and often poorly trained. Sending a resident out to the hospital for a CT scan, that's work. It means calling the doctor, calling the family, arranging transport, doing paperwork. Why do that when the nursing staff has 50 other residents to take care of? It's just far easier to write, she appears fine, and move on to the next thing. Now, I know that sounds crass, but I'm telling you, in a short-staffed building, it happens all the time. Now, I've seen this play out the same way again and again. The fall happens on Friday evening when the building staff levels are low. The note says something like, she had a minor fall, she's up and ambulatory, no apparent distress. Then the weekend goes by and nobody does a real neurological check because nobody's really specifically assigned to do that. And then by Sunday, she's just not herself. And by the time she gets to a hospital on Monday, that bleed has been growing for nearly 3 days. And what was treatable then, if caught early, it's now fatal. So what do you do if this is your family member? First of all, if your loved one has had any fall that resulted in any trauma to the head, especially if they're on blood thinners, do not accept the "she is fine" line. Ask directly whether neurochecks are being performed, whether a CT was ordered or even considered, and put your concern in writing. If it was my mom, I would say get her to the hospital and check. It might turn out to be nothing, but at least you know. And you're not waiting for some unseen bleed to get to the point where it causes her to pass away. Second, if you've already been through the worst, mom's passed away, get the records. Look for the care plan, what kind of supervision or monitoring was done, find the fall report in every nursing home for the next 48 to 72 hours and see what they did or didn't do. Look for the neuro checks. Were they done? Or is there a gap where nobody paid any attention to her? Did the facility call you? Or did the facility call your loved one's doctor? Third, if there is a gap, if she was bleeding while nobody watched, talk to a lawyer who handles nursing home cases in your state. A monitoring failure like that can be the difference between a treatable bleed and a permanent injury or death. If you want to talk to me, I'm happy to have that conversation. You can reach me at 314-878-9797. Now look, sometimes nursing homes figure out that they screwed up, and they're rarely upfront with you about that. Most of the time, when their poor care resulted in serious injury or death, they will try to gaslight you to believe that the fall was not their fault, that there was no way they could have known that a brain bleed was happening, and that it was just her time to go because she was old and feeble. Now, they may say it in a little more flowery language, maybe a little nicer, but I'm telling you, that is exactly what they mean. And in my next video, I'm going to talk more about this and show you how a small sore on a diabetic resident's foot, the kind of thing that you would think would never become a big deal, often ends up in amputation. So go find that video and I'll see you over there.